We're counting down my top 50 favorite movies. Welcome to part 3. Number 30, Psycho. The film that made the horror genre respectable again. This Hitchcock thriller stars Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates, a mild-mannered man who works for his mother at the Bates Motel. But when a woman who has recently stolen $40,000, played by Janet Leigh, comes to stay, Mrs. Bates expresses her anger to Norman about his attraction to her, and the woman ends up being murdered. This film came out in 1960, so it may not be appropriate to call it horror anymore, but it is still recognizable as a great psychological thriller. The music is world-renowned, especially during the infamous shower scene. Apparently, Hitchcock wanted every scene in the motel to be without music, but gave a pay raise to Bernard Herrmann when he performed the murder piece. Rightfully so. You know directors like M. Night Shyamalan who always ends a film in a twist? Psycho perfected it. Anthony Perkins does an excellent job as Norman, and Janet Leigh almost becomes the first scream queen. Ironic because her daughter Jamie Lee Curtis would earn that title too, but more on that later. Psycho is a classic film that's excellently shot and greatly written, and sometimes frightening. Number 29, GoldenEye. The 17th film in the James Bond series places Bond, played by Pierce Brosnan, against a terrorist group known as Yanis, who have stolen a weapon called GoldenEye, and used it to threaten London. I've talked about this movie a lot in my 2 GoldenEye-themed videos, so I won't dwell on it too long. This is my favorite Bond film because it marks a change between classic Bond films and modern installments. It has classic gadgetry and high-wire action. Put in an excellent villain played by Sean Bean, and you've got one of the finest spy films ever made. Number 28, The Terminator. One of the quintessential sci-fi action films, Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a Terminator sent from the war-ridden future to terminate a woman named Sarah Connor, played by Linda Hamilton, who will mother the leader of the revolution against the machines. Another man is sent back as well, played by Michael Biehn, to protect Sarah, and war ensues. The Terminator is a dark and gritty film with excellent film work and action sequences. Schwarzenegger's role is almost similar to a slasher villain such as Jason Voorhees. No bullet can stop him, and it all leads up to an intense climax with multiple false endings. Again, assimilated with slasher films. I've yet to see the sequels, but you gotta start with the original, and this one's great. Number 27, Trading Places. Eddie Murphy plays a dirt-poor con man. Dan Aykroyd plays a super-rich stockbroker. But when Aykroyd's bosses make a bet that if you take everything away from a rich man, he'll resort to crime, and if you give everything to a poor man, he'll remain a criminal, Aykroyd goes to the street, and Murphy goes and earns Aykroyd's former job. Both actors were fresh from Saturday Night Live and were beginning to make a name for themselves in Hollywood. This is a hilariously funny movie in which the non-street smart Aykroyd loses everything, including his fiancée, and has to room with a prostitute played by Jamie Lee Curtis. All results in a hysterical payoff in which Murphy and Aykroyd team up to beat the bosses at their own game. Number 26, Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Stephen Sondheim's classic dark musical is brought to the big screen by Tim Burton. Johnny Depp plays the title role, a wrongfully accused barber who has returned to London to seek revenge on the judge, played by Alan Rickman, who wronged him. He sets up shop in his old parlor above Mrs. Lovett, who is played by Helena Bonham Carter's pie shop, in which he decides to murder everyone who comes in for a shave. The play is more intricate than that, but I don't want to give it away everything, and this movie gets almost all of it right, except it's a little too dark. But that's Burton's trademark style. The blood pops out incredibly red in the depressed London setting, and boy can Johnny Depp sing. Overall, not the best way to get familiarized with the musical, but really worth a watch and well done for fans. Number 25, Michael Jackson's This Is It. Just before the King of Pop's untimely death in 2009, he announced he would be going on a final tour, his This Is It concerts. This documentary features recordings of rehearsals for fan-favorite familiar tunes and behind the scenes of production. There isn't a whole lot to say about this movie, just that it is sure to please any fan of MJ. It's amazing to see Jackson dancing like a pro at 50 years old, but it's bittersweet knowing that he'd be gone too soon. Great music, great visuals, great talent, nothing short of the king. Number 24, Sherlock Holmes. A new Holmes for a new age. Robert Downey Jr. plays the famed detective, and Jude Law plays his humble partner, Dr. John Watson. These two are pitted against a cult of believers in black magic, headed by a man who had appeared to cheat death, played by Mark Strong, and plans to unleash Armageddon on London. If you're expecting a great mystery, you'll get it. But what you'll also get is an ass-kicking action movie. The cinematography is slick and stylish, and Downey and Law fit into their roles perfectly. Strong does a great job as the ominous Lord Blackwood as well. Definitely worth a watch for Holmes fans and fans of action in general. The sequel's great too. Number 23, The Nightmare Before Christmas. More Tim Burton for ya. In this claymated story, Jack Skellington, voiced by Chris Sarandon and Danny Elfman, is the leader of the ghouls and goblins and haunts in Halloween Town, the land that makes Halloween possible. But Jack soon becomes bored by scaring people, and he happens upon Christmas Town. Jack falls in love with what he sees and plans to steal Christmas and make it his own for that year. Though Burton did not direct this, it still has his craft written all over it. The dark nature is just enough to spook kids, yet not to torment them, and it has some dark humor in it too. Danny Elfman composes the music and provides Jack with his haunting singing voice. This was when he was still in Boingo, a year before the band disbanded. The songs are catchy and the animations are awesome. Fun to watch at Halloween or Christmas, or whenever. Number 22, National Treasure. Nicolas Cage plays a treasure hunter on a search for an ancient treasure of which his grandfather told him about. Using clues that Freemasons and Founding Fathers left behind, Cage figures a clue might be hiding on the back of the Declaration of Independence. When Cage decides to steal the document, a countrywide chase ensues, involving the FBI and Cage's rivals. Seeing this movie in theaters was one of the coolest things I'd done as a child. This movie has been described as a modern-day Indiana Jones, and there is some truth to that. It's well written, featuring large pieces of American history to bring you closer to the treasure. There was a top-notch sequel and supposed third film being planned. Well shot with great acting by Nicolas Cage and Jon Voight. This film itself is a treasure. Number 21, Cobra. Sylvester Stallone plays Cobra, a cop who gets a job nobody wants and delivers fast results. But when a series of serial killings are performed by a murderer only known as the Night Slasher, played by Brian Thompson, a woman, played by Brigitte Nielsen, witnesses one of the slaughters. Now Cobra must protect her from the army of fanatic killers. I'm not sure if this is a guilty pleasure or not, but I can't help but love this movie. In fact, a year ago, this movie was 20 spots up on my list at number 1. It's certainly not perfect, but it has great dialogue and character chemistry, great film work in undershot LA regions, plus a moody soundtrack with memorable songs. It has some great action scenes too with an awesome car. Cobra, one of Stallone's most underrated gems. Well, that concludes part 3. Tune in for part 4.